Emily Martin never imagined her world could fall apart in a single night. She had worked so hard to build a quiet life for her and her daughter. 3-year-old Lilia, life filled with bedtime stories, crayon drawings on the fridge, and early morning giggles. But all of that came to a sudden, terrifying halt on a Thursday night in March. Emily worked evenings at a small diner on the edge of town. With no family nearby, she often relied on Tara, a sweet and reliable college student, who babysat Lily whenever Emily had a late shift. Tara had always been punctual, kind, and trustworthy, or so Emily thought. That evening started like any other. Emily packed Lily's favorite blanket, set out her pajamas, and kissed her forehead. Be good for Tara. Okay, she said with a smile. Lily nodded with a sleepy grin and waved goodbye. But when Emily returned home after midnight, the apartment was eerily quiet. The hallway light was off. The television flickered in the background. Something felt wrong. She called out, "Tara." No answer. Emily walked past the kitchen and found Tara scrolling through her phone with earbuds in, barely noticing her. "Where's Lily?" Emily asked sharply. Tara pulled out one earbud and blinked. "Oh, she's asleep, I think. She was acting weird earlier." That sentence made Emily's stomach twist. She rushed into Lily's room, but the bed was empty. Panic surged through her as she scanned the apartment. Then, she saw her Lily was curled up on the floor in the corner of the living room, wrapped in her blanket, rocking slightly back and forth. Her eyes were open, but distant. She didn't speak. She didn't even blink. Emily dropped to her knees. "Lily, baby, it's mommy. What's wrong?" Lily didn't respond. She just stared, her tiny fingers clenching the blanket tighter. Emily turned back to Tara. "What happened?" Tara shrugged, looking uncomfortable. "She got fussy after her nap. I put on cartoons and gave her a snack. She didn't want to talk." That night, Emily barely slept. She sat beside Lily's bed, whispering softly, hoping for a word, a glance, anything. But Lily remained silent. By morning, Emily knew something was deeply wrong. At the hospital, doctors ran tests. They found no bruises, no physical injuries. But one child psychologist had a grim expression after evaluating Lily. "She's experienced trauma," the woman explained gently. "This silence isn't random. It's a psychological response. Something happened, and her brain has gone into protective mode." Emily's heart shattered. But what happened? The therapist could only shake her head. "That's what we need to find out. She's the only one who knows." When the police were called in, Detective Jake Palmer took the case. He'd seen this before too many times. Kids who went silent after witnessing or experiencing something terrible. But Lily's case pulled at him more than usual. Maybe it was her age, or maybe it was the way Emily looked, so completely broken. Jake was a father once, too. He knew that kind of pain. On his first visit, Jake didn't go alone. He brought his partner Max, a large German shepherd with calm eyes and a quiet presence. Max was retired from street duty but still served in the department's trauma response unit. Jake had seen him work miracles before. The moment they walked into the apartment, Max padded over to Lily and sat beside her, careful and still. Lily didn't flinch. She didn't cry. She just looked at the dog, her eyes studying his face like she was searching for something familiar. Then, slowly, she reached out and placed her hand on his fur. Emily gasped. It was the first voluntary movement Lily had made in days. Jake knelt beside them. "His name's Max," he said gently. Lily blinked. Then, in the faintest whisper, she said, "Max." Emily burst into tears. Jake said nothing, just gave Max a slow pat on the side and whispered, "Good boy." In that single word, Jake saw something he hadn't seen since the case began. Hope. Lily had found her first crack in the wall she'd built. And if they were lucky, Max could help open that door wide enough for the truth to finally come out. Whatever had happened that night, it wasn't over, but now they had a chance. Detective Jake Palmer wasn't the kind of man who got emotional on the job. But Lily Martin's case had stuck with him from day one. Maybe it was the silence in her eyes, or the way she clung to the dog like it was her only lifeline. Either way, he knew he couldn't treat this like any other investigation. This wasn't just about gathering evidence, it was about rebuilding a little girl's world. The first time Lily spoke Max's name, it hit Jake hard. That single whispered word cracked through the trauma that had sealed her away. He saw something familiar in her fear, a deep kind of silence. The kind that didn't just happen by accident. Someone had done this to her. The problem was, without her words, they didn't have much to go on. And time was running out. Jake and Max started visiting the apartment every other day. Emily, exhausted and grateful, welcomed them like old friends. She would sit quietly on the couch, watching her daughter with hopeful eyes as Lily interacted with Max. At first, she would only pet him, stroke his fur, or whisper his name. But slowly, little fragments of speech began to return. One morning, Lily looked at Jake while Max laid beside her and asked, "Does he talk?" Jake smiled softly. "Not with words, but he listens real well." Lily thought about that for a moment, then nodded. "He likes me." Jake glanced at Emily, whose hand had flown to her mouth, holding back a sob. Just 2 weeks ago, her daughter hadn't spoken a word. By the end of that week, Lily was speaking short sentences around Max. She still shut down around other adults, especially men, and she would freeze at loud noises. But with Max, she seemed safe. More than once, Jake caught her whispering things to the dog when she thought no one was listening. One afternoon, Jake brought something different. A photo lineup. The babysitter, Tara, had been questioned, and although she insisted nothing unusual had happened, her story had holes. She mentioned a boyfriend, Jason Crowley, who supposedly stopped by that night. He had a prior record for assault and child endangerment. A real piece of work. Jake laid 5 photos on the living room table and casually let Max enter the room like it was just another visit. Lily came in quietly and sat next to the dog, her hand instantly resting on his back. Jake kept his voice soft. "Lily, can Max help you with something?" She looked up at him. "We're looking for someone. Someone who might have been really mean to you. Can you look at these pictures?" Lily hesitated, eyes flicking between the photos. Then Max stood up, walked toward the table, and sniffed each one. He paused at the third photo and let out a short grunt, a sound Jake knew meant Max had picked something up. His body tensed, his ears perked. Lily followed Max's gaze and stared at the same photo. Jake kept his breath steady. After a long silence, Lily whispered, "That's the bad man." Emily froze in place. Jake leaned forward. "Are you sure, Lily?" She nodded. "He came at night. He was in the dark." Jake's heart pounded. Did Tara know he was there? Lily looked confused, then simply said, "She went outside." Emily's eyes filled with tears. She clutched her daughter tightly but said nothing. That was enough for Jake to move. With Lily's quiet confirmation and Max's behavior trained to sense emotional spikes and stress, he had what he needed to push for a warrant. They brought Jason in for questioning. He denied everything, sneered at the accusations, and acted like the whole thing was a joke. But Jake wasn't laughing. Back at the station, he filed for a formal request to allow Max to accompany Lily to the courtroom if it ever came to trial. The system rarely allowed dogs inside courtrooms, but Jake was willing to fight tooth and nail to make an exception. Without Max, Lily would never speak in front of strangers. He was her protector now, in every sense of the word. That night, Emily tucked Lily into bed while Jake watched silently from the hallway. Max laid near the girl's feet, alert but calm. Before closing her eyes, Lily whispered, "Max is brave." Jake looked at the old dog and nodded. "You both are," he said softly. But deep down, he knew the hardest part was still ahead, getting a terrified little girl to face her nightmare in front of a room full of strangers. And when that day came, Max would have to do more than comfort her. He would have to carry her courage. Days turned into weeks, but Lily's silence around everyone except Max remained unbroken. The bond between the little girl and the German Shepherd grew stronger with each passing visit. Max seemed to sense the fragility beneath Lily's quiet eyes, and she found comfort in the dog's steady presence. Emily watched in awe and relief. It felt like her daughter was slowly crawling back from a dark place, piece by piece. But the journey was far from over. Lily's world was still filled with shadows, and the truth behind that night remained buried deep inside her. One afternoon, Jake brought a small box of toys and some drawing paper, hoping to give Lily another way to express herself. The living room was bright with afternoon sunlight filtering through the curtains. Lily sat cross-legged on the floor, Max lying faithfully at her side. "Do you want to draw, Lily?" Jake asked, softly, just she hesitated, then picked up a crayon. Slowly, she began to sketch a house, a tree, and a stick figure. But her eyes kept darting to Max, as if she needed reassurance. Jake knelt beside her. "Max likes your picture." Lily smiled faintly but didn't speak. Suddenly, Max lifted his nose and nudged a folded piece of paper toward Lily. Inside was a photo that Jake had taken during one of their visits, a picture of Tara, the babysitter, smiling and chatting on her phone. Jake had shown the photo to Max earlier, hoping to observe the dog's reaction. Max gave a low growl. Lily looked at the picture, then pointed to it. "That one," she whispered. Jake glanced at Emily, who nodded encouragingly. "Do you want to tell us about her?" Jake asked. Lily's fingers trembled. She looked at Max, then back at Jake. Her voice was barely audible. "She left me," she said. Emily's throat tightened. "What happened, sweetie?" Lily shook her head. "I was scared." That single phrase was a breakthrough. It was a tiny crack in the wall Lily had built around herself. Jake knew they were close to something big. He gently asked, "Did someone come?" When Tara left, Lily looked down, tears welling in her eyes. Max rested his head on her lap, offering silent comfort. "Yes," she said softly. "Who?" Lily's gaze flickered to Max, and then up to Jake. For the first time, she didn't look away. "He hurt me." Emily gasped and moved closer, wrapping an arm around her daughter. Jake's face darkened. This was the moment they had been waiting for, the whispered truth, finally spoken. But with it came a new fear. Could Lily say this in court? Would she be able to face the man who had stolen her safety? The thought made Emily's hands shake, and even Jake felt a knot tighten in his stomach. Jake knew Max's presence was key. The dog had become more than a partner. He was Lily's shield, her voice when words failed. The next challenge was clear, convincing the court to allow Max in. The courtroom, it was an unusual request, but Jake was determined. If the dog could help Lily speak her truth, then Max deserved to be there. Emily spent sleepless nights praying for courage, not just for herself, but for Lily. Every step forward was hard won, but now they had a glimmer of hope. As the sun set over the quiet town, Lily curled up next to Max on the couch. Her fingers stroked his fur as she whispered one word, safe. The days grew heavier as the investigation moved forward. Detective Jake Palmer and Emily Martin faced a painful reality without Lily's words in court. The chances of convicting the man who hurt her were slim. Jason Crowley, Tara's boyfriend, was a known troublemaker with a dark past. His criminal record stretched back years, including charges for assault and child abuse. When Jake questioned him, Jason sneered and denied any involvement in Lily's silence or the night's events. He acted like the whole thing was a joke, dangerously confident in the gaps of evidence against him. Emily sat through the interviews in silence, anger simmering beneath her calm exterior. She wanted to scream, to demand justice for her daughter, but all she could do was hold Lily's hand and hope for a miracle. Meanwhile, Lily's bond with Max deepened. The dog became more than a friend, he was a protector, a constant in a world that had become confusing and frightening. Max's calm presence gave Lily a sliver of peace, something Emily hadn't seen in weeks. One afternoon, Jake arranged a meeting between the detectives and Emily at their apartment. The air was thick with tension. Jake explained the tough reality. Without Lily's testimony, the case would likely be dismissed. They needed her voice. But forcing a terrified toddler to relive trauma could break her. Emily swallowed hard. There has to be another way. Jake nodded. That's why I want to bring Max to court. Emily looked skeptical. A dog in the courtroom. Max isn't just any dog, Jake said firmly. He's Lily's anchor. If Max is there, she might find the courage to speak. Emily wiped tears from her eyes. Anything to help her. They began the process to request a court exception. The judges were hesitant. Courtrooms were formal, strict places. Animals were rarely allowed inside. But after months of persistence and letters from child psychologists emphasizing Max's importance, the judges agreed to let Max be present during Lily's testimony. The courtroom was set. Emily dressed Lily in her favorite pink sweater, hoping the familiar comfort might soothe her. Jake brought Max, who seemed to sense the gravity of the moment. He wore his special service vest and sat obediently at Lily's side. As the trial began, tension filled the room. The prosecutor outlined the charges: aggravated assault, child endangerment. The defense lawyer scoffed, calling the case circumstantial and unreliable, trying to shake the jury's confidence. When it was time for Lily to testify, the room held its breath. The judge called her to the stand. Tiny hands clutched Max's leash tightly. Lily's eyes scanned the crowd and finally settled on the accused man, who stared back with a cruel smirk. The courtroom fell silent. Lily's lips trembled. She looked down, unwilling to speak. Then slowly, she raised a finger and pointed directly at Jason Crowley. A murmur spread. Jake stepped forward gently. Lily, do you want to tell us who hurt you? Lily glanced at Max, then back at the man. She feared. Her voice was soft but clear. He hurt me. The two words echoed through the courtroom. Gasps came from the audience. Even the defense lawyer was stunned. Max moved closer, resting his head on Lily's knee. Offering silent support, Lily's tiny hand squeezed the dog's fur as she whispered, "No more." The judge nodded solemnly. The moment was powerful. Lily's courage shining through, anchored by her faithful companion. Emily's eyes filled with tears as she watched her daughter finally speak out loud. Jake knew this testimony would change everything. The courtroom buzzed with an uneasy energy. All eyes were on the tiny figure standing at the witness stand: 3-year-old Lily Martin, clutching the leash of a calm, imposing German shepherd named Max. The air was thick with anticipation and a silent hope that justice would finally be served. Emily sat close to the front, her heart pounding in her chest. Every muscle in her body was taut with anxiety. This was the moment she had dreaded and prayed for all at once. The man accused of hurting her daughter, Jason Crowley, sat across the room, his arrogant smirk barely concealed. He glanced around, clearly unimpressed by the fragile child before him. The judge cleared his throat, signaling the start of the testimony. The prosecution approached gently, knowing the weight of what lay ahead. They didn't want to pressure Lily, just give her the courage to speak. Detective Jake Palmer stood nearby, giving a reassuring nod to the little girl. Max sat faithfully beside her, his steady presence a silent guardian in the intimidating courtroom. Lily, the prosecutor, began softly, "Can you tell us who hurt you?" For a moment, the courtroom held its breath. Lily's lips quivered. Her small hand trembled as she gripped Max's leash tighter. The judge leaned forward, eyes kind but expectant. The defense attorney scoffed quietly, whispering to his client, confident that Lily's fear would keep her silent. But then, Lily did something no one expected. She lifted her arm and pointed directly at Jason Crowley. The room went silent. "Who is that, Lily?" the prosecutor asked. Lily's voice came out, clear and steady. He heard. Two simple words, but they carried a world of meaning. The strength behind them shook the room. Gasps echoed softly from the audience, and even the jury members shifted, in their seats, suddenly fully engaged. Jason Crowley's smirk faltered for the first time. His face twisted with disbelief, anger, and fear. His defense attorney shot a warning glance. But it was too late. The damage was done. Lily looked down, tears welling up, then glanced at Max. The dog pressed his head gently against her knee. Offering comfort, she squeezed his fur, drawing strength from his unwavering presence. The judge cleared his throat. "Miss Martin, do you want to say anything else?" Lily shook her head slowly, but whispered, "No more." The words resonated deeply, signaling her plea for safety and peace. Emily wiped away tears, overwhelmed by a wave of relief and pride. After weeks of silence and fear, her daughter had found her voice when it mattered most. Detective Palmer stepped forward to testify, confirming Max's role in helping Lily communicate and identifying Jason Crowley as the man who had violated her trust. The defense attorney tried to discredit the testimony, calling it unreliable and emotional. But the jury's expressions told a different story. They were moved, convinced by the courage of a little girl who had overcome her fears with the help of a loyal dog. Outside the courtroom, reporters whispered about the unusual but powerful bond between Lily and Max, a dog who helped a toddler speak up when no one else could. As the day ended, Emily hugged Lily tightly. Max lay at their feet, tired but content. The hardest part wasn't over, but the first victory had been won. The courtroom was quiet but tense as the jury filed back into the room after their deliberation. Hours felt like days to everyone waiting for their decision. Emily, Detective Jake Palmer, the lawyers, and most importantly, little Lily. Emily sat, clutching her daughter's hand tightly, her heart pounding so loudly she thought Lily might hear it. Max rested calmly at Lily's feet, his presence a quiet reminder of the journey they had all endured together. The foreperson stood and cleared her throat. "We, the jury, find the defendant guilty on all counts." A hush swept through the courtroom. Then, a wave of emotion broke loose: relief, gratitude, and a deep sense of justice. Emily's knees nearly buckled. Tears spilled freely as she pulled Lily into a protective hug. The weight they had carried for so long was finally lifting. Jason Crowley sat in stunned silence, the reality of his conviction crashing down. His once cocky demeanor was gone, replaced by a bitter, defeated expression. The judge addressed the courtroom. "I commend Miss Martin's courage and the extraordinary role of K9 Max in this case. This court recognizes the bond between this child and her service dog, and it is a powerful testament to the healing power of compassion." Emily felt a warmth spread through her chest. Max had not only helped her daughter speak, but had also helped bring justice to a broken family. After the verdict, reporters gathered outside, eager to tell the story of the brave little girl and the loyal dog who wouldn't let her suffer in silence. Jake gave interviews, but he always brought the focus back to Lily's strength and the incredible bond she shared with Max. Back at home, life began to slowly return to normal. Lily continued therapy, her speech improving daily, and with Max always nearby, she found the confidence to laugh and play again. Emily watched her daughter grow stronger each day, grateful beyond words for the support they'd received from Jake, Max, and the community. One evening, as the sun set over their quiet neighborhood, Lily sat beside Max on the porch steps. She gently stroked his fur and whispered, "Thank you." Max rested his head on her lap, his eyes full of gentle understanding. Emily stood behind them, smiling softly. "We're safe now," she said, and for the first time in a long while, the future looked bright. The days that followed the verdict were a whirlwind of emotions for the Martin family. Emily felt a weight lifted, but also the lingering scars of what they had endured. Lily, now slowly regaining her voice, was blossoming with every passing day, her laughter returning like sunshine after a storm. Max remained her steadfast companion, the gentle guardian who never left her side. Emily knew the road ahead wasn't going to be easy. Healing from trauma takes time, and Lily's journey was far from over. But the victory in court gave them something priceless: a chance to rebuild, to reclaim their lives. Jake Palmer checked in regularly, not just as a detective, but as a friend. His connection to the family went beyond the case. He saw the resilience in Emily's eyes and the spark reigniting in Lily's smile. One afternoon, Emily suggested an way to turn their pain into purpose. "We should go to schools," she said quietly. "Teach kids about safety, about courage, about speaking up." Jake nodded thoughtfully. "And Max can be there too. He's been a hero." Together, they started visiting local schools and community centers. The story of Lily and Max inspired many. Children listened wide-eyed as Emily spoke about recognizing danger and the importance of telling a trusted adult when something feels wrong. Jake shared how service animals can help victims heal, showing pictures of Max in his special vest. Lily, still shy, would sometimes stand beside Max, gently petting him. The sight of the little girl and her dog gave hope to families facing their own struggles. The bond between Lily and Max was more than companionship, was a symbol of strength. Max had not only helped Lily find her voice, but had also sparked a movement in their community. Meanwhile, Emily began attending therapy herself. She had carried guilt and fear, but with support, she learned to let go of the past and focus on the future. One crisp autumn day, the town held a small ceremony honoring Max for his service. Local officials presented him with a medal, recognizing his role in the case and his unwavering dedication. Lily beamed proudly as she hugged Max. "You're my hero," she whispered. Max wagged his tail gently, as if understanding every word. Though Max was nearing retirement age, he had made an impact that would last far beyond his years on the force. As the sun dipped low in the sky, Emily watched Lily and Max playing in the yard. The laughter, the innocence, it was a new beginning for all of them. And while the scars remained, so did hope, love, and months had passed since the courtroom drama. But for Emily and Lily Martin, every day was a new challenge, a new victory, and a step toward healing. The shadows of the past still lingered, but the light of hope grew stronger with each small triumph. Lily's voice had blossomed. Where once she whispered only a word or two, she now spoke in sentences, telling stories about her day, singing songs, and laughing freely. The silence that had held her captive was finally breaking. And standing beside her through it all was Max the dog, who had become her voice when she couldn't speak, her courage when she was afraid. Emily watched her daughter play in the backyard. One afternoon, sunlight catching the golden strands of her hair, Lily chased a butterfly, her laughter ringing through the air, and Max trotted behind, ever watchful and protective. It was a scene of pure joy, but Emily knew it was the result of strength and love forged in the hardest of times. One evening, as the family settled in after dinner, Lily climbed onto Emily's lap. "Mommy," she said softly. Max helped me be brave. Emily smiled, brushing a stray curl from her daughter's face. "Yes, sweetheart. He's very special." Max lay curled at their feet, content and calm. In the weeks that followed, Emily and Jake organized community events, focused on child safety and healing from trauma. Lily sometimes joined, shy but proud, walking beside Max as he greeted children and families. The little girl who had once been silenced by fear was now a beacon of hope. Emily often thought about the long journey they'd been on, the nights of tears, the courtroom battles, and the slow rebuilding of trust. She was grateful for the people who stood by them, Jake, who never gave up, the therapists who gently guided Lily, and of course, Max, whose presence changed everything. One crisp morning, as Max's retirement day approached, Emily and Jake held a small gathering at the police station. Officers, community members, and the Martins came together to celebrate the dog's incredible service. Max received a special plaque, honoring his courage, loyalty, and the lives he had touched. Lily hugged Max tightly, whispering, "Thank you for saving me." The dog's eyes gleamed with a gentle understanding. Though he was growing older, his spirit remained unbroken. As Max prepared to retire, Emily knew their bond would never fade. Max wasn't just a service dog, he was family. Lily's future was bright. She had found her voice, her strength, and a new beginning. And Emily finally believed that no matter what storms life might bring, love and courage could light the way forward.